Hello, everybody. This is Arthur Mills and Ernie Pack from Pac-Man Paranormal.
Hello, how's it going?
This is my fourth episode, so I'm still a little wet behind the ears, still trying to figure everything out. And Ernie Pack was gracious enough to bail me out if anything goes wrong. He could help me out.
Well, I'm technically challenged, like I told you earlier today in chat. I'm technically challenged, but I'll try to help you through it. I mean, we do this a lot.
Okay, so today is going to be a pretty interesting topic. It's something that's been bothering me throughout my life, and it would be great to have people in the paranormal community help me out with this. Uh, and is Candle Face real? Is she a real ghostly entity, or is she just a product of my imagination? That is a question, even as a young child, that I grappled with all throughout my adulthood. In the Army, we're out in the woods. I would tell people about Candleface, and people was like, "Oh, come on, that ain't real. Is it real?" And I'll be saying, "Yeah, it's real," but with some doubt, like, "Okay, well, maybe it wasn't quite real." Um, and then there's plenty of evidence for both sides that she is real and other evidence to suggest that she isn't real. Um, so I hope that with your insight and your vast experience, you can help me uh, at least point me in one direction or the other.
Well, I'll do all I can. The the thing that gets me based on what I've heard about Candleface, like I told you earlier, I'm not
Yeah.
100% familiar with every aspect of it, but based on what I've heard, it sounds like you're getting messages from spirits that are telling you that Candleface is basically oppressing them and keeping them trapped in a certain location. Is that, if I got the broadest
Yeah.
understanding of it?
Yeah, that really is it in a nutshell. Around October of last year is when I started digging more deeply into who Candleface was. Because the last time I ever heard of anything about Candleface was like the morning after my high school prom, and that was in '92. And but after that, I didn't hear anything about it. I just told stories about it. Um, then when I moved back to Texas from Washington State, that's when I says, once I get settled into Houston, I'm going to start looking into Candleface. Who was Candleface? Uh, and it's around that time when I started having visions and dreams of Candleface coming, not necessarily her coming to me, but these spirits coming to me, asking for my help, saying face that killed them or Candleface's followers that killed them. So I had to think, am I just dreaming these just like I dreamt Candleface as a kid?
Right.
Or are these real? Are these real spirits? But I think mostly for today, I would like to go deeper into the past of my childhood and go over some evidence of Candleface, like who was, uh, maybe not necessarily who is Candleface, but I would really like to answer that ultimately. But as far as today, I want to go over some things that I experienced as a kid, and you and those that are watching, if they can make a determination one way or the other, if she was real or was I just imagining the whole thing.
Right.
The other aspect, I guess, a little bit deeper is, even if maybe I did imagine the whole thing, did I manifestate her to be a real entity?
Right.
That's something beyond my pay grade, but maybe somebody would be able to figure that out. So I have these really cheesy slides here. Maybe it's the military part of me that likes slides, but
PowerPoint.
Yeah, PowerPoint.
Yeah.
PowerPoint Ranger.
You need a pointer to point at each one.
Yeah. So
pointer.
unfortunately, yeah, I wish you could see my my cursor, but you can't really see that. So, but anyway, what I wanted to go over is was Candle Face real, or was she imagination? My imagination. A lot of words, but when I was growing up, when I would see these entities, a Candle Face coming into my bedroom at night, whether I was asleep or not, I would always wake up in the morning wondering if I really saw it. Her face was very detailed. I called her Candle Face because her face looked like a melted candle. And we're talking about a 4 to 7-year-old child.
Right.
I didn't have the vocabulary of anything else other than calling her Candle Face.
Right.
So, but it was very detailed. And I had Stacy on the remote viewer on last week, and he said something that was very interesting. He said, I asked him, I said, do you think it was all real? And his assessment at the time was, yes, he does think it's a Candle Face was real because your dreams of her or your sightings of her were consistent through time, throughout. And when you're actually dreaming of something, things change.
Mm-hmm.
1 minute you're at the sunset, and the next minute you're on the highway, and then the next minute you're at home. It just jumbles all over the place.
Yep.
But Candle Face has stayed consistent. Her details, her appearances, and a child of that age, between 4 to 10, I don't think it would be so vivid like that. I think you would be able to only explain things of your vocabulary at the time.
Right.
But I was able to describe her in a way that maybe an adult would, except for her name, Candle Face. That was the only childlike description.
Right.
Prolonged and repeated incidences. Encounters with Candle Face occurred over a prolonged period. In reality, it was maybe 8 years or so. In the book, my memoir, The Empty Lot Next Door, it goes through maybe a summer. I just condensed everything, to speed the book along.
I understand.
And then physical marks and manipulated objects in the environment supported the ongoing nature of these encounters. I would have red marks on my chest. One thing that she loved to do was come and sit on my chest, or mostly on my stomach, and then just tap like this on my chest over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And then I would wake up and I would have red marks on my chest.
Okay.
In the next argument, where I'm suggesting that the face was not real, I suggest that maybe in my sleep, I'm doing this physically, which is possible.
It is possible. I mean,
right.
I feel scratches on parts of my body all the time that I can't explain, and I just figure we're somewhere in the night. I was scratching my leg or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But, I mean, there's a lot more to it than just that. So I I know what you're saying.
Right. Then the next slide. Now, my older brother, Ricky, is a year and a half older than me. We shared the same bedroom, just 2 or 3 feet apart from each other. He would have very similar interactions with Candle Face. He never actually admitted to it, but he alluded to it often. I would have the red marks, and I would look it down, and then he'll look at me and smirk and says, "It will go away." He would have all these different little nuances to show that he understands, and that he's experiencing the same type of thing. He's talked about his imaginary friend named Griffin, and how Griffin is the younger brother of Candle Face, which I believed for a while, but as I grew and did my own research and stuff, I I don't believe that's the case. But it was interesting at the time of my brother Ricky telling me that. He would mention that he goes off with Griffin to imaginary worlds, and he would hang out with Griffin and watch Griffin fight enemies and battle. And it just great stories. And my brother was great at telling those stories at our treehouse at the empty lot next door. And we just loved those stories. But he would tell me later on at night that Candleface would punish Griffin for telling too much of these stories. But how would Ricky know that? I never really mentioned anything about Candleface other than the name Candleface to my brother, because even though we were brothers, we didn't really get along like what 10-year-old siblings do,
Right. True.
So we really didn't talk. We competed a lot for mutual friends, competed for the clothes, competed for the leftovers. That's just what we did.
I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to interrupt, but I mean, that definitely lends a lot of credibility to the thought that it's not just something that's made up. I mean, anytime, I mean, it's the same when we're on a paranormal investigation, for example. If I see a shadow figure move across a hallway, and I say I saw a shadow figure move across a hallway, that's a cool story.
Yeah.
But if I just look up and I see 3 other people going, oh, and saying it, or even one other person, then I know, okay, it's not in my head. And it's the same kind of thing that you're talking about with your brother here. What I would, I mean, if I could dig in just a little bit on it, what I'm interested in is if this, in all of this communication that you're receiving, rather than it simply coming, or rather than it coming from all these various spirits that are, somehow victims of Candleface, I wonder if it's all Candleface just tormenting you.
Yeah, I
on these wild goose chases to get in your head more.
Yeah. So far since October, I've had 35 victims come to me, either in my living room or guest bedroom, the garage, my little sunroom. And many of them talk about how they became crazy as far as hearing voices in their head. Candleface is constantly talking to them to the point where they end up committing suicide, drowning in Town Lake in Austin, Texas, or overdosing because they just could not get Candleface out of their minds. So to me, is that happening to me? Is that how Candleface is attacking me by making it pretending like I'm helping these lost souls when these lost souls don't really exist? Right. She's just messing with me. However, out of those 35, I believe I've solved, or at least identified, 5 of them.
Really?
Last week, I talked about victim number 5. A little girl that was, she comes to me, says that she was kidnapped from her swing in front of her mobile home while her mother was watching from the window, but she turned around for a few minutes and came back and the girl was gone. And she's telling me that she heard some whimpering, thinking that it was maybe a hurt puppy behind some bushes, and she went behind the bushes and it was Candleface there and took her. So the interesting part of that is viewers actually got to me and says, hey, that sounds like a girl named Tashana, a 4-year-old girl that went missing on a swing in front of a mobile home in Austin, Texas.
Wow.
And she went missing while swinging. on the swing, and she lived there with her mother and grandmother. And the testimony of this little girl that came to me was talking about how she misses her mama and granny.
Mm-hmm.
Ends up being her great grandmother instead of grandmother. And the spirit that was kidnapped was 2 years old, and the one that appeared to me seemed to be maybe 4 or 5. But I've never been really good at ages. But
little kids are little kids. That's
little kids are little kids. Yeah. You would think as a former private investigator that I could really identify and look at people's ages and get it like that. No, I can't.
I get it.
Ages I've never been able to really
understand.
Get.
I mean, most people when they see me, they think I'm 25. I got to tell them, no, I'm 4 or 5 years older than that. But no, Rich asked a question over here that brings a question of my own to mind. He asked if you got any cases brought to you in or around the Long Island, New York area.
No. As of now, I don't pick and choose. They come to me when they want. Maybe it's Candle Face pulling the strings, but it's these individuals that are coming to me. I haven't been able to say, I want to see this case, and then they come to me. I haven't been able to do that. They just coming to me, and it seems somewhat random. They don't appear to be in order, like Candle Face. Like for me, when I list something as Candle Face victim number 11, it isn't Candle Face's 11th victim. It's
the
just
11th one that's come to you,
right? And that seems to be the easiest way for me to remember the order that way.
And I probably should know the answer to this. I probably should have done my homework and know the answer. But have you got one of those maps with the crossing lines like you see on the detective shows everywhere, pinpointing these different locations?
No, I have it in my head. That's called link analysis, and that's what I did in the military. I did link analysis like that with millions of data points, and this is only maybe a few hundred data points. So yeah, I could visualize it. Yeah, it's such a smaller network. Maybe that's what I need to do. That's a good idea, is to put it more.
That might help kind of pinpoint, like Damien mentions, a pattern or something. Some type of area where there's a higher concentration or something like that. Yeah. And then you could look into, I mean, if it is spiritually based, this entity that's responsible for this or whatever, then you could look into the, if you can get a centralized location of where it might be based out of, you could look into the elements of the hauntings of that area, if you know what I'm saying. Well, is that Native American? Is it, because it sounds to me like it's very ancient, whatever it is.
Yeah. And Damien, give a little bit more detail. Like you're saying, is it the same time or pattern, like in sightings or in the dreams? I think you could be onto something. So let me know. But as far as the patterns in where the victims are coming from, they all seem to be from Central Texas, except for one. One victim is from San Francisco. And that was almost like a target of opportunity. Candle Face is what I'm thinking. Is the original target was a female from Austin, or in this Austin area, and she had a pen pal from San Francisco. And so when they would talk back and forth by letters, and it was Candle Face says that she took her friend from San Francisco first, and that she's entertaining her shadows, as her punishment. And she says, you will meet your friend soon. And then she's taken as well. So that is the only victim that I know outside of Austin, the Austin area. As victims come to you, 3 a.m. witching. Yeah, I need a translator for that.
I think he's saying, is there a pattern to the times that the victims are communicating with you?
The only pattern is hours of darkness. I haven't had anything during the day. Um, they're not necessarily when I'm sleeping, even though most of them are. Most of the time, I sleep in the living room. I don't like on the couch. My wife has cancer, and she sleeps by herself in the bedroom. So I just crash on the couch or upstairs. So if I'm upstairs, then they come upstairs. If I'm downstairs in the living room, they come from downstairs. Sometimes I like to hang out in my sunroom. That's where they come out. Twice I'm tinkering around in my garage, and the garage door opens, and they'll come in.
Yeah.
That happened twice. So 3 different times, 3 different locations, or multiple times, but always during hours of darkness. I'm awake or asleep. But another pattern is, and it's an indirect pattern, but still a pattern nonetheless, is the sightings are becoming, or the testimonies of these spirits are becoming more graphic, more detailed. Some of them are telling me their names now. The last one was Dave. I had one that said her name is Crystal. Some of them are telling me, instead of saying from Austin, she says that Crystal was killed in North Austin. I've had
Specifically.
3 mention Luling, Texas, which is southwest, about an hour or so southwest of Austin, off of Highway 183. And they mentioned Highway 183.
Yeah.
They even mentioned a street name. However, I looked at Luling, and there's no salt road, but there's a salt flat road, or flat salt road, something like that. But could that be the same? And it talks about a dirt road. That's a dirt road. And there's mentions of a house. And then last week, when I was talking to Tracy, the remote viewer, I started having this. I'm not saying I'm psychic or I was having some kind of vision, but for some reason, when I was trying to explain to him, I was seeing a small house with horizontal wooden planks that was up on cinder blocks. Maybe that's just my imagination, but that's what I was visioning.
I know, and I've heard you say before that you're not saying you're psychic or anything like that, but all of this, everything about this sounds to me like you are. And you've gotten enough confirmations from your dreams or your visions or whatever that I think you're actually pretty good at it. You're just not, like Damien said, not fine-tuned enough maybe to understand it all. And I have no idea how to fine-tune someone's abilities, because I don't know how to fine-tune my own.
Yeah.
But this, I mean, this whole thing, I think it's got, there's a reality to it. I don't think it's all imagination, just based on what I've heard. And like Denise says, a lot of her information comes from dreams. I mean, I've seen a lot of people that are very good at psychic work, that they get their information through dreams. And a lot of times they doubt it. They think it's just a figment of their imagination or something. And until you learn to embrace it and turn it on and turn it off, you find yourself in a situation you're in where it's like, am I imagining this, or am I really getting these messages?
Yeah.
But something that kind of just keeps going through my head on this is that Candle Face might actually not be the one, I don't know, responsible or whatever for the messages in a negative way. I wonder if Candle Face is actually trying to bring these people to you in a weird sort of way. I mean, I can tell you that in in our history, Denise can tell you, Todd and Leanne Eskew can tell you, we have dealt with an entity at a particular haunted location that for a long time we thought was evil and dark.
Yeah.
And then we come to realize that that entity was actually a protector and a messenger. And it could very well be that Candle Face is not the evil, oppressive entity, but rather a messenger, and someone who's reaching out to you to try to get you to help these other souls. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a possibility that I don't know. I mean,
No, that's good.
I can't say
Yeah.
anything with any certainty.
Well, I do know for sure Candle Face is the one that's bringing these spirits to me. I've had 2 run-ins with Candle Face since then, and within the last few months, where I started to progress and ask questions to these spirits, because originally I'm just dead wood. I'm just sitting there or standing there, and they will come in and tell me things. But other paranormal investigators will say, "Well, ask questions like, what are they wearing?" That's what Stacy would ask, is like, describe them.
Yes.
But I'll try to ask them questions, and I don't think of it at the time. But I wake up and it's like, oh, I should ask.
Yeah.
So I started having that ability where I would say hi, I would greet them, and they would look surprised, and then they would greet me back, and then I would ask a few questions, and they would answer. However, the first one that ever answered me, they were rushed back into that shadow that I call the portal. But it's not the traditional portal you see on cartoons. It's a big round circle, swirl. I mean, nothing like that. It's just a shadow.
It's a black cloud.
Yeah.
Basically.
Right. And so eventually Candle Face did appear, and she took me into, I call just her hell, for lack for a better term. And she tells me, because I'm asking questions, she's going to torture all her souls more, that I am not to ask questions and they are not to answer my questions. And so I did it again, and I asked additional questions one day to a spirit that was like gawking over my wife's brownies that she made the day before, and they're sitting it up on the counter, and he's leaning against it saying, "Man, I sure wish I could eat one of the brownies." And I said, "Help yourself."
Yeah.
And he was punished more severely, because Candle Face came back to me and says, "Look, you keep doing it, they're going to receive more punishment." So since then, I don't ask questions. I don't do, though, because they're giving me more details, almost to the point they know what questions I'm going to ask.
Right.
One person had the last guy, Dave, had a black T-shirt with some kind of writing on it. I couldn't really make out what it was saying.
Did it say "get haunted"?
It said "get haunted." Yeah. It looked like a concert T-shirt. Concert T-shirts almost look the same type of thing. And but he had long, dirty blonde hair, very heavy metal-ish in the 80s, and he named himself Dave. So I think they're telling me more. And so I think in the future, I'm going to be able to, actually, coming to think about it, maybe I'll continue honing my skills on remote viewing, and maybe I can just ask the questions while I'm awake, like right now, and see if they answer those questions when they come. Yeah. I don't know why I didn't think about that earlier, but
that's an idea. I mean, even do it, the paranormal investigator way. Ask the questions aloud with no one else around, and run a recorder, because spirits can communicate through EVPs and give you direct answers to questions. I mean, I've seen it happen. I've been there, done that. that you very well might get some answers that way.
So
And
Damien, I'm sorry, go ahead.
go ahead.
Damien here has a good point. He says, the only reason I can see Candleface would send them to you is to torment the spirit, to relieve the event. Maybe that's what energy it feeds off.
Yeah, that
Could be. But
that,
overall, here's what I think. And who am I to know? But Candleface has mentioned that to the spirits that the reason they've been targeted for death is because they did not believe in Candleface, or they believed and then no longer believe. They lost their faith one way or the other, or they mocked other believers. So she killed them, or had the believers kill them. And then, is it possible that she's using me to get the word out for two reasons? I have a history with Candleface. I beat her at one time when I was a child, and I am a writer. I've written several novels. I have both non-fiction and fiction books. Is she using me as her pen?
Right.
Is she using me to get the word out? And by having these spirits come to me, this is just her way of getting that word out.
That's a possibility. And icy spirits coming over here is something I was wondering myself. I wonder if Candleface is actually punishing these spirits, or if she is just saying that to get you to shut up. Because spirits, especially dark ones, are famous liars.
Yeah.
And they will manipulate you and tell you, oh, you're going to get somebody killed if you keep doing this. You dig any deeper, and really they have no power to do that. It's my belief, based on my years of paranormal research, in particular with a particular spirit that I'm very familiar with. People who know who I am know exactly who I'm talking about. That spirits don't actually hold any power over one another. If Candleface is a spirit, she or he has no real power over any other spirit. Now, they can intimidate. Spirits have complete free will to go be and do whatever, wherever, and whenever they want. Future, past, present, whatever. And as long as the spirits realize that, no other spirit or other force can confine them from that.
Yeah.
And that's my belief. Now, these spirits that are coming to you, they might not realize that. I mean, if they died suddenly and tragically, like it sounds like most of them did, they might not realize the freedom that they have. So communicating with them more is the key to them finding peace, is letting them know that, hey, she can't hold you here. She can't make you do anything. She can't keep you from being where you want to be, when you want to be there, whatever.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure that when you start doing that, like you said, you'll get more messages from Candleface saying, stop it, because you're going to cause them more problems. But that's, in my opinion, that's Candleface thinking that you might be stealing her power, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, it doesn't. And I appreciate these hypotheses. This is interesting. Address this. Have you seen any evidence? And you just touched up on this, that Candleface is actually punishing the spirits reaching out to you. Maybe it's just a threat because you're getting close. I don't think so, but I'm not discounting it. I'm looking at it in a different avenue, because she's the one that's bringing these spirits to me. And as long as I don't ask questions, and as long as they don't answer those questions, she's fine with it. But to me, it's just interesting is she put them there. why is she then asking me to help them? So part of that is she's playing a game with me,
Right.
or she's just using me to do this podcast to get the word out about her and increase her numbers, increase her followers. But I don't really think she's going after me because I'm getting too close. She wants me to get this close. I've had 26,000 people go to my website in the last 6 weeks because people are interested in this, and they're sending me private messages saying they think they know who this person is. They think they know who this person is, and it's something that I think she wants. For instance, victim number 11, which I think is the most disturbing victim on my website. A female describes her case as being she was barely 18 and she was dating a man that was in his upper 20s, and he had several kids from different relationships, and her family did not like that, and his family did not like that he's dating a younger woman. And so they hid their relationship as much as possible, went to hotels. And one particular day, while they're in the hotel, he starts talking about Candle Face again, and she gets upset. Hey, I don't want to hear anything about Candle Face. So he gets on the phone, and a few minutes later, he says, hey, some friends are coming over. They came over. She's getting freaked out, and she says, well, I'm out of here. She starts gathering her stuff. Next thing she knows, she starts getting drowsy and she falls. She says that she was drugged by a needle. She wakes up naked, spread on a bed in a shack out in the middle of nowhere. And for the next 7 days, she's raped repeatedly by men waiting in long lines. Wow. And Candle Face is there watching, caressing her hair as the men are having their way with her. And at the very end, it's the boyfriend and those same guys came in, and he puts a knife through her chest and kills her. I had a psychic tell me that she's buried on the, I can't remember, I think it's on the right side of that shack in a shallow grave. Yeah. And the spirit did mention that she is in a shallow grave. But a viewer says that sounds like a case of a female from Austin, Texas that went missing named Roxanne. And she went missing, and she had a boyfriend that was 28 years old, and she was 18, and he had several kids. And she was last seen at a hotel. Wow. And so very, very similar stories. Yeah. Not to say this is Roxanne, it could be something totally different. Right. But, with 300 plus million people in the United States, you're going to have similar stories everywhere.
Yeah. Unfortunate.
Yeah.
That, I don't know. I mean, there's, like with anything paranormal, the more information you get, the more questions there are. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, do the spirits use the name Candle Face with you when they're talking to you?
They do. They do, but I don't. I think the reason they're doing that is because they know I know her as Candle Face.
Right. Right.
And so there's some that I believe that happened. These spirits are coming to me that happened in the 70s. And that's before I started calling her Candle Face. So I think they're referring to her as Candle Face because I call her Candle Face.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not very good at reading people's. I need to get better at it. I get distracted. I'm talking, and it's hard for me to. I know everybody likes to read the comments, and I'll get better as we go. So let me go back to these slides.
Okay.
If I can. So I think it left off with, So yeah, my brother Ricky and I would see a lot of the same things. And then the specific knowledge and predictions. Candle Face demonstrated knowledge of personal details and future events. There's been cases where in my childhood there was a young boy that was killed by a hit and run driver, and Candle Face told me about that. He died by a Jeep hitting him while he was going down the street. Just the day before, he was mocking the little girl who we at the time all believed was Candle Face. He was mocking her, saying, "I have her little toys." It was two little wooden cars, little Hot Wheel car type of things. And he says, these cars belong to that little girl. Ha ha ha, she's dead. Now I got her toys. And so he dies the next day as he's going to school. And then Candle Face comes and says, she gets one of my G.I. Joe characters and gets one of my Hot Wheels, and she starts smashing them together. Yeah. I had a neighbor commit suicide, shooting himself in the head. And she reenact that by using a revolver, going up to my sleeping brother Ricky, putting the revolver up to his head and going, reenacting that. And there's been cases where she would give me the predictions of my brother Ricky getting beat up in the creek the next day, and I would see it. I would see it in the dream, and then it would be exactly the same at the creek the next day. It was like a deja vu type of incident. I don't think if she was an imaginary figure, I would see these predictions like that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's some pretty specific stuff in there that would not just pop up out of your imagination and then come true.
Right.
So, yeah.
And then injuries such as the scratches on my skin and disturbances in the physical environment. How can that be imaginary? Unless, of course, I was awake or asleep and tapping myself on my chest. Right. Handprints. My book, The Empty Lot Next Door, has a big handprint on the cover. And that's because handprints is a right there. Handprint, because Candle Face would always leave those handprints on my windows. So in my dream, she's trying to get in while I learn to go through and lock those doors and lock the windows. And she'll go to the next window and I'll shut that window, because this is Texas. We left the windows open all the time. Right. And she'll try to get through those windows. And then when I go to school the next day, I'll look at those windows and there's handprints. Huh. Mostly not on the windows, but they were really on the window screens, because we had window screens, and Texas is dusty and there's a lot of dust, and there'll be little clean handprints. Yeah. Like she's trying to get up in there. Yeah. It's hard to imagine who's doing that. If this was just imaginary.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, you got a lot of good points. I mean, I don't think it's imaginary. I think it's some type of communication, be it spirit communication or just psychic communication in general.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that there's something going on.
Okay. All right. So switch focus here. And now what's the evidence supporting that it's just me making it up in my head, just manifesting Candle Face? My childhood had a lot of tensions, isolation. I stuttered terribly. I stuttered between every word, every syllable. I couldn't even put a word together. It was terrible, which is really interesting now, because I spent my military career as a briefer. I was almost like the press secretary for Intelligence Matters. I spoke and briefed daily. But as a kid, I couldn't even put a word. I just couldn't do it. And then all the other traumas I had, there was several suicides all throughout my neighborhood. My brother Ricky committed suicide due to his issues with Candle Face and other visions that he had. So much trauma. All the bullies, my brothers, my bullies around the neighborhood, the schools, and it was just very traumatic. So if I understand correctly, and I'm not a psychologist, people who have those type of issues do tend to have these spiritual visions like this. So it could just be me seeing Candle Face, manifesting her because of the trauma that I had. Or it could be that I have a really good imagination.
Rise to it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I know several people who've had brain injuries, and all of a sudden they have these abilities where they, on one segment of society sees them as, well, they've lost their mind and they're schizophrenic, and the other segment sees them as they are gifted.
Yeah. Well, Spider-Man got his superpowers by getting bit by a spider.
Exactly.
So why not?
I firmly believe that does happen. I think that you go through certain traumas, and your brain has to, particularly like with head injuries, your brain is forced to rewire itself, right, to overcome this head injury. And sometimes in the course of that, maybe it opens up a whole part of your brain that you haven't ever touched on. They say we only use like 10% of our brain.
Yeah.
By going through that rewiring process, it opens up something that we, normally wouldn't be aware of. And that gives people these abilities to have these visions and have these psychic experiences, or whatever you want to call them. And, like I say, people that don't understand it will say, oh, well, they're crazy. Well, no, they're just using a part of their brain that you're not using and you're not used to seeing anyone use. So,
yeah.
I mean, that's how I see
it. Damien says here, if she did claim these victims, do you know the dates or years between? I don't know. I hope to be able to get that in the future. Right now, I'm getting names and I'm getting very specific addresses. Hopefully, dates would come next. I wish dates would have came first. As an investigator, I would want dates. Maybe names first, dates second. But I can't pick and choose. And then he has another good comment here. Have you ever seen it through the victim's eyes or Candle Face's eyes? This is what Stacy and I were talking about, the remote viewer. I would like to be able to see the victims, instead of the victims telling me their testimonies. It would be great if I can just live it out as the victim. There is a psychic medium named Donna. She's a really busy person. She's not answering my text. She just has a lot of her own stuff to do. Pretty busy. But I would love to be able to get with her, because she says that she feels the pains of her victims. Yeah. And maybe that's why she's not really wanting to deal with me.
Delve in.
Or maybe she's just busy. But I would like to be able to get to that point, because if I'm the victim, or if I'm the follower or the killer, I could look around and that person's point of view and get more detail.
When it is, and get a real good description of the victim at that point.
He also says the other possibility is Candle Face haunts you and these spirits come to you for help, and she uses and puts herself in their deaths when she wasn't to stay alive in you, Yeah, that's quite good possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Lot of these questions and hypotheses could come out as I progress.
Yeah.
But this is really a collaborative effort.
Big plate of spaghetti laying on the table, and you got to organize it and twist the fork a little bit.
Yeah. That's what it all is. It's just getting enough data to analyze it,
Mm-hmm.
then process it, analyze it, then disseminate it. And that's what I hope to do in these podcasts, where I'm collecting it and other people can be collecting with me, and then we can collaborate, because I'm not going to always be right.
Right.
And chances are I'm not going to be right, because I think I'm too emotionally involved to see a lot of what's going on.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to step back outside of yourself or whatever and take an objective look at anything when you get that emotional attachment like that. And it's yeah. He says he just hopes you get to that last page and poof into a portal. But I think the key for you to getting to the bottom of this is going to be spirit communication, communicating with the spirits, asking them questions.
Yeah.
One of the questions that I asked once on an investigation, I had no idea what the answer was until after I got an answer, and then went and verified it with the people that would know, is, when did this happen to you?
Yeah.
And I got February 8th. And, I had no idea if that meant anything. So I went we were at a museum location, and I went to the curator there and asked him that question. And he said, well, let me look into that. And he was able to find documentation that the particular murder that we were talking about had occurred on February 8th. It was information he didn't have before, but it was available in public records once he got digging.
Yeah.
And he didn't know that date until the spirit told us. So I think that's going to be a big key for you, is just actually opening up and communicating with the spirits. Don't fear what Candle Face is throwing at you with, oh, you're just causing them more torment, more pain, whatever.
Yeah.
Do the work, man. Just keep trudging and talk to these spirits, because as paranormal investigators, everybody over here in the chat that's a paranormal investigator will tell you, our main goal is not to scare people. It's not to be scared. It's not to do anything more than have experiences, one, and help spirits. And if we work with clients, like at a home or something like that, help the clients. But with Denise and I in particular, our main goal when we have any kind of spirit communication at all, we want to help that spirit.
Yeah.
And we'll ask every pertinent question we can think of to find out who they are, what happened to them, why they're here, why they're reaching out for help. Because spirits have no reason to talk to living people. We're boring. We're in this 3-dimensional world and trapped in this physical form, and we're way below them, really. The only reason they communicate with us is because they're reaching out for help. And so just let them know that you're open to hearing what they've got to say, and you want to help them. And you've got this vast network of people that are willing to help you help them. And I think you'll start getting more and more answers, and you might get to the bottom of all of this. It might be that Candle Face is just this, I don't know, this ideology of something that is leading you to help these spirits.
Yeah.
That makes any sense at all? I don't
know.
Oh
yeah. I'm taking notes right now. Now Jen here, she's asking, who is Candle Face? Well, there's your Candle Face.
Beautiful. Look at that. Miss America. I cannot imagine being a child like you were when you first started having these experiences, and that being the imagery that was associated with it.
Well, okay. So for Jen and others, the Cliff Notes is when I was a kid, I lived next to an empty lot. And it was just house, 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 empty lot, house, 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 house. And all the neighborhood kids said that there was a family there, 4 people, mother, father, little boy, little girl, who all died in that fire. And it burned down the house, and everybody died. At some point, we moved in next door and had all these new friends, and they told me about the story that says, "Don't jump in that hole that's at the back of the empty lot, because that's where the ghosts live, because the family couldn't afford a plot cemetery, so they just buried the bodies in there." Kids always talking like that. And this hole was probably up to my waist because I was so young. Today, ankle, but it was a good size hole.
Right.
And but because I was such a runt of everybody, I stuttered so bad. I was skinny. I was just a runt of a kid, and nobody paid any attention to me. Everybody was paying attention to my brother Ricky. Says, one day I'm going to jump in that hole, and I did. And in the middle of the night, I'm poking the bottom of the hole, saying, "Where are you, ghosts? Come on out! If you're really there." Well, later that night, I had a dream. I'm saying in a dream, but of a little girl, all tethered and burnt, crawling out of that hole and propping herself up on this big oak tree that became my brother's stage, the treehouse. And for years after that, now in my memoir, I just say it's a summer to speed it up. But for years, she would come in through the front door or through my windows and pinch my nose and mouth shut. And she would love to see my eyes roll behind my head. Or as I go to school, we always walk to Dawson Elementary School in Austin, Texas. Had to go through a creek. And sometimes I went by myself, and she would sometimes be there, and she'll pull me into the water and try to drown me. Or maybe not try to drown me, because she could drown me if she wanted to, but she'll leave me there just enough time, and she'll lift me up, and then I would gasp for air. And we would continually do this for years, all different types of things coming in. And I started being able to shut the windows to keep her out. I progressed to that. And so she'll go to the next window, to the next window, next window. My brother Ricky would tell me his stories of Candle Face, and it just progressed to the point where bullies would go after myself and Ricky. My brother Ricky could not handle it anymore, and so he hung himself in the tree right next to his treehouse, right there at the same tree. He just could not take the bullies. He couldn't take Candle Face anymore. And it was a long list of other students and adults in the neighborhood that committed suicide as well. It got to the point where I learned to control my dreams. I was no longer scared of Candle Face, and I was able to start fighting back. And she disappeared after that, like shortly after my 6th grade year, when 6th grade was still part of elementary school. And I stopped having those dreams. And it wasn't until 2010 when I decided I was going to write a memoir about the empty lot next door. Mm-hmm. And but I didn't have any more sightings until October of last year, when I started actually researching the house, the empty lot next door. I wanted to find out, was there really a family that died in that fire? Throughout the years, I've gotten maybe 100 or more emails from people saying that they've seen Candle Face. And I just pretty much ignored them. But now, when I got to Texas, I started researching it. I started contacting them. Two of them got with me, and I went to Austin and interviewed one of them, who has seen Candle Face, and even called her Candle Face because he knew of my book in 2010. And so he just referred to her as Candle Face because that's the name I'm familiar with. He told me that he was suicidal. He was just about to put a revolver to his head. Candle Face comes out of one of his shadows and says, "Don't do it. I can help you. I can make the pain go away. All you have to do is spread the word and let people know of her." And so he said he would go to different homeless camps or where prostitutes are hanging out, and he would tell them about them. And those that laughed were dead within weeks by overdose or suicide. And those that believed felt better. He ended up kicking me out of his house, told me to get out. He's disabled, in a wheelchair, but he sure got up, out of that wheelchair to go up to that door and open that door for me because I questioned him. He kept saying that she was compassionate. Candle Face is a compassionate spirit. And I said, what kind of compassion is somebody who kills people who don't believe? And right. He's like, "Arthur, get out right now. You're on thin ice. Get out." And he kicks me out.
Wow.
So Candle Face is, even though I just made an argument that she's real and an argument that she's not, I believe she's real. Because as I was growing up, I wondered it. And that was the whole premise of my memoir, The Empty Lot Next Door. Was she real or not? Mm-hmm. But when I start having these visions, I come to the conclusion she is real. And these spirits are real because 5 of them I've been able to identify, potentially, more than likely identify. But there's 35. And with all these paranormal, the community here, I would love for people to be able to go and read and let's identify them and rescue them. But I'm a little long-winded here, sorry, but the big question is, so what? What happens if I, like the little girl, Tanisha, I believe she's that little girl that was missing from the swing. Mm-hmm. So what? Do I just go to her mom's house and knock on the door and say, "Hey, guess what? Your daughter's with Candle Face in hell"? I mean, I don't do that. I mean, do I just not? I mean, what's the purpose then? If I don't go out and identify or tell the family, then what's the whole purpose? There has to be an end to this game. And what is it?
I think, and that's a good point and a good question. It's a question that I'm sure we all have. I mean, to what end? All of this, to what end?
Yeah.
But like Icy Spirits says, and then Damien kind of backs it up. It sounds like you have some type of spirit attachment.
Yeah.
Those of us who do this kind of work a lot, you've said you're not a paranormal investigator and you're just kind of getting into this aspect of it. It does sound like you have some type of spirit attachment, be that Candle Face or these 35 others that have communicated with you, or all 36 together. But I think what might help you do something more with this and get more to the bottom of it would be having yourself cleansed and try to remove this attachment, where you can step back out of it, get out of that emotional draw that you've got, and look at it more objectively and more analytically, like your background. And then that might lead you to getting where you need to be to get the answers that you're looking for.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know we're in Kentucky, but if you were ever out here, I have a group of people I know we could.
I'm on my way.
Come on out. I know we could get you cleansed and get this attachment off of you.
But I don't think I want that though. If I'm helping these spirits, then I don't want to be cleansed quite yet.
I see what you're saying if you're helping these spirits, but if you're just getting your own torment, by it constantly living rent free in your mind, then you got to look out for number one first, and you can't help them if you can't help yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think that you really should look at that. Maybe cleansing yourself and then taking an objective look at it. Then you can go on and proceed as a paranormal investigator would and just communicate directly with the spirits without the emotional attachment and the spiritual attachment that's obviously going on, and do it as an analyst, as an investigator. And I think you'd be more prone to getting the answers that you're looking for that way. I mean, that's just an opinion.
Yeah.
And, I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong by what you're doing. I think it's like, the word that keeps coming up talking about this is fascinating.
Yeah. And
it is a very fascinating phenomenon that's going on with you on this.
Yeah.
But
so
I think you benefit from a good cleansing.
I do shower daily, but I don't think that's what you mean.
I can smell you from here, Arthur. Come on.
Yeah.
No, you know what I'm saying. I mean, spiritual cleansing.
Nancy here saying that why not stop walking through the creek? So in my memoir, I talk about that creek quite a bit. That's where bullies would wait for my brother Ricky. Carlos. I don't really remember his real name. In the book, I just call him Carlos. Carlos and his gang would wait for us because my brother would not fight back. They would punch Ricky right in the face and he'll fall and stand and say, Jesus says, turn the other cheek. And then they'll laugh and they'll punch him in the other cheek. And he will keep doing that. They'll keep punishing him until he just can't walk anymore. And then he's unconscious and I'm trying to help him up. And then he will come through and he says, go to school, go to school. And, oh, I can't leave you here. Go to school. But eventually I'll go to school. And as I'm walking to school, I could just see him still laying there. So she asked, why didn't I just not walk through the creek? There was what we call the long way. So you got the creek and the long way. The long way was maybe a mile, but you had other dangers like getting hit by a car, like my other friend. It was that same street or the same area. And there was a lot of cars there. There was other bullies there. And that was to us, a scarier way. So that creek was the faster we could get to school. Plus, I always got up at the last second. I got ready, ran to my friend Michael's house, and then we walked together a lot of times through that creek. But if we went the other way, I would be late, and then we'll get a demerit, and then which is like a pink slip type of thing, and we'll get in trouble. And I couldn't have that. So it was always the creek. Let's see who else is saying something ingenious. A lot of good comments, but I'm really terrible at reading and speaking at the same time. Had attachment before, then the emotions released, jumping into the hole was callous. So yeah, that was the whole thing is jumping into the hole. Just like when in October of last year, I jumped into the hole again by researching Candle Face, looking more into her. I think that's what I did. And then maybe she is trying to keep me away from her, because I did find out, I did a background check on my neighborhood, the house that I grew up in, where I believed it was a duplex. It wasn't a duplex, according to public records. The empty lot did have a house, and it was burnt down in May 1969. And a whole family of 4 did not die in that fire. A little girl did not die in the fire. It was a little boy. Neighbors said that some neighbors said that, and Ricky said that the little boy who died in the fire was named Griffin, which was the name of my brother's imaginary friend.
Yeah.
So that was not true. It was a 2-year-old boy named Paul who died in the fire. So it just answered more questions instead of answering, like all investigations do.
Right.
Candle Face did not die in the fire. There was no 11-year-old girl. My house was said to be a duplex, according to a lot of my friends' parents, because it looks like a duplex. It has 2 front doors. And so every year we always got 2 phone books, because the mailman thought it was 2 different houses, but 2 Sears catalogs. You remember those things?
Oh yeah.
And so
Christmas came from.
Yeah. So we, but come to find out, when I did the background check on my house, it was never a duplex. So then who in the hell is Candle Face? Right? If she didn't die in my house, if she didn't die in the empty lot, if there was no little boy that died, or a 4-year-old boy, it was a 2-year-old boy with a totally different name, what's real, what's not?
Right.
And I think at that point is when I started having the dreams of these spirits coming. So is Candle Face, you mentioned, and I think it was Damien mentioned, that could just all be a red herring? Is Candle Face trying to keep me from digging deeper into her by just putting these spirits out there to keep me occupied? I need to look into that.
I mean, that's one possibility. I mean, right now, you probably got an entire book of possibilities, but that's one of the possibilities. Definitely, I would think.
Yeah, let's see what else somebody's saying. What is Damien? Anything like that could server link, and never know, but that could happen anytime. I know how to read, but I'm a little distance away and it looks weird. If I get too close to read it, then you see me too close.
Yeah.
I don't want to scare my viewers away.
They don't need the up close, the super close up.
Yeah. If it stopped tomorrow, knowing only what you know now, how would you feel? I will feel incomplete. That's why I'm a little hesitant to be cleansed, because I don't think I'm there yet. I think these spirits are coming to me because they want my help, or Candle Face is coming to me because she wants me not to help them per se, but to spread her word. But if I'm spreading her word and I'm helping these spirits at the same time, however, and I just thought of this is crazy. Sometimes when you speak out loud,
a whole new thought pops in.
Yeah. Is it possible that Candle Face doesn't want me to help these people? It's just a matter of keeping me from researching her. Even though I just alluded to this just a few minutes ago, and I just lost my train of thought. See, Candle Face is pulling that out of my head. Oh my God, I just really had this great idea, and it's totally gone now. I'm having a Biden moment.
Well, I don't know exactly where you were going with that.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm gonna have to watch this over again, and maybe I can figure it out.
I mean, if Candle Face is not there leading these spirits to you for you to help them, maybe Candle Face is leading these spirits to you for you to help her. And then maybe she's just using you and stirring all this stuff up with you for you to keep feeding her story.
Yeah. Okay. I remember what I was going to say. I remember
trying to give you a trigger. I don't know if any of that.
Yeah. So who's to say that Candle Face is going to up in her side of the bargain. So let's say if I do identify victim number 11, and that is Roxanne, and everybody says, yes, Roxanne's the one that came to me. Well, is she going to be free from Candleface? Is she going to release them? So who's to say that she's going to be truthful and faithful?
Well, that goes back to what I was saying earlier. I think your communication then becomes directed at Roxanne, and you let Roxanne know that she is free. That, look, we're telling your story. We're getting to the bottom of this. There's no reason for you to be here. Go see the pyramids. Go write a comet. I mean, you're free. You're an energy being that can be anywhere you want.
Who does that? Who's the one that can free them?
They are free. They are. Some of them just don't realize it. They're free now. They just don't realize it.
Well, if you don't realize it, then you're not free.
Right. Well, you free them by letting them know and telling the world their story. And telling everyone that will listen. I found this out about Roxanne. This is what happened to Roxanne. This is when it happened. This is who did it. And Roxanne can then find peace, and she has no reason to be here in Austin, Texas, or wherever. She can go anywhere she wants. It's a strange concept that's hard to grasp, but when you've done this stuff a lot, like I have, like a lot of people on the screen that I've seen chiming in the chat, you realize that a lot of times spirits just need a little bit of a nudge, and then poof, they're off into the cosmos to do what is considered existing in heaven.
Yeah.
And which in my opinion is not a place, but it's a whole other concept. But I mean, I think that, I'll go back to it again. I think that the first step that would help a lot would be making sure you get yourself a good spiritual cleansing from people who are experienced with that. And not just somebody that's, seen it on TV or read a book or seen it on the internet or whatever. People who have actually done it with success. Get yourself a good spiritual cleansing, and then make your communications directly with the spirits. Candleface tries to butt in, shut up. Go away. I'm talking to Roxanne right now. I'm talking to whoever. I'm not talking to you. You have no power here. You got to set those boundaries. And I think that would help. I mean, that's my opinion. I'm not saying I'm right, but that's my opinion.
Yeah. Damien says, if she did have a play in over 100 deaths, your house get full fast, and she keeps control. Yeah. Yep. Well, they're not staying in my house though. They are going back in.
Well, they'll eventually drive you nuts though, because they won't shut up.
Yeah, they won't shut up. Yeah, but it is good that they're leaving. But when they leave, that means they're just going back to being tortured.
Candleface has you thinking.
True. Yeah. Only if I could come up with the way to trap them and keep them from going back into the portal.
You need one of those guns like they have on Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Back in. No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. That would work.
No, you don't have that power. As a mortal, you don't have that power. None of us do. You can release them, but you can't trap them. In my opinion, it would be great if there was a man who was murdered in this room in 1903, the room I'm sitting in right now, and his name's Silas Rodman. And I would love to be able to just pull Silas in here and sit him down and find out exactly his murder's still unsolved. His body was found in the river out back several months after he was killed.
Wow.
And I'd love to pull him in here and sit him down and say, what happened? I will get to the bottom of it, and I will help you. But I don't have the power to do that. I can ask him, but I can't make it.
Wow. Right there in that room?
Right here in this room.
What date?
1903.
1903. Wow. That's an old house.
It was built in 1841.
Wow.
It's been a Civil War hospital. It's been a brothel. It's been a hotel. It's been a lot of it.
Wow.
What's up, Richie B? Good to see you.
I'm not sure about this guy, though, Richie B. I don't know. He's a little flaky.
He's Jersey. It's Jersey.
Yeah. Well, there's a better guest than you, than the other guy, Ernie, or brother. Yeah.
I don't know.
No, yeah, Richie B is pretty cool. I like him. He's very animate.
Yes, he is. He's full of energy, that's for sure. Gotta love him.
No, you don't get to say hi to other people. It's only me and Ernie.
That's right.
But okay, I think pretty much the slides I think I got the slides going to the most part. Yeah, we already talked about this type of stuff. But if you want any additional information, there's my website there, just www.candleface.com. And then the Facebook page, Candle Face Chronicles. And then I do have another Facebook page for my dream team. And these are paranormal investigators, psychics, and mediums. So where we can discuss like what we're doing today, discuss and go over evidence. And then my YouTube channel. The Empty Lot Next Door was my memoir. I originally wrote that in 2010. It won national awards. It was an Amazon bestseller for quite some time. Won national awards. I originally wrote it as a young adult novel. Did very well. It was actually going to be an episode on Haunted on a TV show, and it was going through the process. It was pulled at the last minute because they said it had too much childish. That's what they called it, childish. But I think it's because it was a young adult focused book. And I actually had quite a bit of reviews, and the only negative reviews that I had were all dealing with, they thought it was a very creepy, scary book, but then it had some episodes of childish things in it. Because it's a young adult book. It was meant for young adult and children. So there was a lot of, I talked about the stories of my griffin, the imaginary creature with my brother going in imaginary worlds. And the kids love that. But I decided to create a second edition, and I got rid of most of the childish stuff and most issues relating to Griffin, and made it into a traditional horror, more realistic, more mainstream, and put in more details of what really happened instead of drawing that out to make it a young adult novel.
Right.
So I added, subtracted about 35 pages of young adult stuff, but I added another 35 pages of more accurate descriptions. And then the Lost Souls, I really originally wasn't going to write a book. It was just going to be me doing a blog. But I was having such a hard time trying to get paranormal investigators and the paranormal community involved. Most of them didn't want anything to do with Candle Face. You know, they know Candle Face is too evil. I don't want anything to do with her. I was being chased out of the paranormal community. I had profiles in so many other paranormal groups. And so while they're speaking, not knowing that I'm there, they're actually stay away from Arthur. He's no good. It's too scary. She's going to ruin everything. And so people were running for the hills. And so I said, I'm just going to write a book. And so I'm not going to deal with the paranormal investigators anymore, the paranormal community. I'm going to go to the readers. Readers may be scared, but they're still going to turn the page to read on, while paranormal investigators are going to head for the hills. But I discovered Rob and Sarah and Get Haunted Network, and they were like, "You're welcome. Come on over. We ain't a bunch of pussies. Come and tell us the story. Tell us what is going on, and see." And it progressed from there. Now I got my own podcast. So hopefully we can help these lost souls. So the podcast is to get the help from the paranormal, and the book is to get the help from readers. So 2 different avenues here is my approach.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that, I mean, again, it's just a fascinating subject to me. And I'm going to probably wind up with the book. Yeah, thanks for zooming out there. That was I'm probably going to have to get the book and dig deeper in this. But
well, send me your address and then I'll send you a copy.
Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah, I'll send you one of each. I'll send Denise one, then I'll send you the other.
Okay.
So that way,
she doesn't need any. She's got my truck right now, and I'm scared.
Well, 2 different books, so that way you could swap when you're done with them.
And don't send her. Just send them both to me.
Okay. Yeah.
She can't read anyway.
She can't read. Yeah. Well, there's pictures.
West Virginia.
There's pictures. The Empty Lot Next Door actually has, I think, 49 pictures. Cool. I just couldn't figure out another one to make it an even 50. I couldn't do it. So.
Just one more picture of you,
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Do a roll pose. But no, I mean, it's fascinating, and I'd be willing to help any way I can. Like you've heard my input as far as what I know right now. That I think the first step to getting to the next level with this would be to do a personal cleansing.
Well, maybe I could take a trip to Kentucky.
Come on down, and we'll get myself, Denise, Todd, and Leanne. We'll get a whole crew on you, and we got a cleansing ritual that we have used many times for spirit attachments that's been pretty successful. And Rob and Sarah have witnessed it. They can tell you about it. And then go from there. And then you just start communicating, like I said, directly with the spirits that are, reaching out for help, and push Candle Face aside, talk to the spirits, and you can probably get a lot further with this. Yeah.
No, I like that.
Yeah.
So I'm actually over my time. I try to keep it at an hour, but this was exciting. You had a lot of great insights, and so I went over a little bit, but I do appreciate it. And let's see what I carry a Ouija board tattoo on. Oh yeah, I've seen. That's pretty weird. Maybe I could do that too. Maybe I could use a Ouija board for the spirits, but
it's no different than any other tool that we use, in my opinion. As long as you know what you're doing, pay attention to how to open it, how to close it, and it very well might give you some answers.
Back in my junior high school years, a buddy of mine and I used a Ouija board, and I didn't believe in that thing. I thought it was just so silly, but it was fun. This is way before the internet or anything. So all we did was play Skip-Bo, Uno, and the Ouija board. But we were doing the Ouija board, and the spirit said his name was Vincent. And I asked questions like, what's going to be my English 6-week grade, for my report card. And I was a dummy back then. And the Ouija board said 79. And the next day, my grade was 79. The teacher said it was 79. So it was just weird things. And the spirit said, Vincent. Well, my buddy moved a few weeks after that to a street named Vincent in South Austin.
Wow.
So there was just a bunch of weird, very weird coincidences. Not really sure if I believe in any of that. I mean, are you really just pushing it? But there's no reason to be a skeptic. or there's nothing wrong with being a skeptic.
No,
With,
that's
with that said, I was watching the Ghost and the Goat podcast. I think it was yesterday or the day before. I've seen it, but I never actually paid more attention to it. And Joe Vitale, I think, am I saying that right?
yeah.
He said something there that was really interesting, and he's talking about a rocking chair, I believe that, and he was trying to figure out how is it rocking? Is it a ghost rocking in it, or is there something making it rock? I'm pretty sure this is what he was talking about. I was trying to do some school homework and listening to it at the same time, and he was trying to find a non-paranormal reason for it. And I was like, that's outstanding. That was outstanding that he was trying to prove and disprove and that's how I came up with this topic today. I was going to talk about victim number 5. But when he mentioned that, I was like, I'm going to switch focus and I want to do something similar and see if other people had some insights into this candle face being real or not. So if you're watching this, I don't know if they know who I am, but I watched his podcast and I thought that was pretty neat. It was pretty
that's what you've got to do as a paranormal investigator, just like a police investigator or any investigator. Sometimes the most obvious answer is, what your brain wants to jump to. You know what I mean? Like a door slams. I've got a video of a door closing here in our house that it closed on command for me. And I mean, before I even started running video on it, because the door had closed prior to that, before I even started running video, I walked over to that door, I opened it, and I looked at it to see if it was balanced or if it was one that would swing, closed freely, without being touched, or if there was any wind, anything, any draft, anything that would cause that door to close. Yeah. And then, I asked it to close, and it closed when I asked it to. And so that's how you've got to do anything in the paranormal. You've got to look for the alternative reasoning behind any activity that you catch. I mean, it's just.
A few months ago, I made a form that I call the Haunted Handbook, and it's up on my website. And it's a series of questions that I think that paranormal investigators can ask themselves. So I'm mixing like real investigation, or I shouldn't say real investigations, but like criminal investigations with paranormal investigations and putting it together along with a dash of intelligence analysis. And but if you go to my website, the www.candleface.com, there's one in there that says the Haunted Handbook, and it goes through a series. It's a form, a job form that's been about maybe a month put together, but it's just to help paranormal investigators going through their investigations. But I would really love to hear what you think about it. Maybe I'm way off track. Maybe I'm not asking the right questions.
Well, I haven't seen it, but I'll tell you some of the questions that we ask if we're with someone who claims to have a haunting. We find out if they're on any medications. We find out if there's any mold or anything like that in the home, because that can cause hallucinations and things like that. We run a baseline EMF reading, because high EMF readings can cause hallucinations and crazy thoughts. We sit down and talk with the person, not give them a psychological exam, but talk to them and see if they seem like they're psychologically sound, on our crazy minds.
Yeah.
I mean, those are some of the things that we do every time. And I think most every experienced investigator does the same thing. But I don't know if that has anything to do with anything that's in the handbook you're talking about, but that's just, a piece.
Very similar. Yeah. But I didn't put anything about black mold, or maybe I can incorporate that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that black mold could do that.
Yes, it can. The spores, when it releases the spores and you inhale them, it can mess with your mind.
Yeah.
Guana, batshit. You've heard of being batshit crazy.
Yeah.
It can do the same thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that can cause hallucinations and that type of thing. So,
Mm.
that's one of the things that we look for first off, is to make sure it's not just the person hallucinating or, imagining things or whatever. And
So I got a question for you, and then I'll go.
okay.
So why is it, and this is going to sound a little mean maybe, why is it that paranormal investigators, a great majority of them that I see on YouTube and podcasts, when they have the first sight of something paranormal, they haul ass? There's the little tap. They're there to find what it, but once they find it, they're gone. Oh, there's touch my breath, touch my, and they're gone. That's what you're there for, isn't it? I mean, why run from what you seek?
Exactly. I feel the same way. I mean, I'll tell you that, there are times when I'll get a jump scare, and, Todd and Leanne and Denise will tell you that I scream like a girl. When certain, when things happen, sometimes it just catches you off guard and you're like, whoa, whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't run. I mean, that's like you said, that's what we're there for. I think the people who do that do it more for show and to get the clicks.
That's the consensus that I get.
And try to dramatize things.
Yeah. And another thing that I noticed too is when a lot of these paranormal investigators will go out and film their investigations, they're almost always an hour long or 2 hours long. And if it's an hour long, at the 55-minute or at the hour 55-minute, that's when the female gets touched. And then that's the cue to end the investigation. The touching always happens at the end. So it's almost like that's
that's how
the
you
signal.
That's the signal. That's how you spot a phony in the paranormal field.
Yeah.
Things are like that.
I can see those patterns.
I'll tell you, like the television shows, the bigger name television shows that you've seen on TV, the paranormal television shows, they make it look like it's a one-night investigation.
Yeah.
And, they compressed it into a 1-hour television show, right?
Yeah.
I can tell you, they typically film for a week to maybe get 2 or 3 pieces of evidence. I mean, I've been with them. I've been a part of television shows.
Yeah.
They'll film for a week to get 2 or 3 pieces of evidence, and then they put it out in an episode, and you think, wow, they had an active night. No, they had one thing happen one night, had 3 nights where nothing happened, then 2 things happened the next night, and then a couple nights with nothing happened, and then one more thing the last night they're there, and they put it all together, and it looks like, whoa, this was crazy.
Yeah.
Most of the time we spend sitting around in the dark with nothing going on.
Yeah, it's just like when I would do surveillance, I could be there for 8 hours peeing in a bottle.
Yeah.
And nothing happens. And then one thing happens. Maybe I finally see the individual that's supposed to be comatose and now he's cutting the grass,
Yeah.
or walk out to get his mail. And so I waited 8 hours just to watch the guy to walk. But yeah, then I got the guy. So I'm not saying it's all fake, of course, but to me, when I see these certain patterns, so obvious patterns from one video to the next of somebody being touched at the 57th minute, right before the end of the video, I start to wonder.
Right.
But just because I wonder just doesn't mean that it's fake. I understand that,
I'll tell you, any paranormal video on YouTube or anything online or any free service, whatever, or even a well-produced show on a major network, if the preview or the flyer for the show, the ad for the show has someone going,
oh yeah,
watch it.
Yeah.
Don't watch it.
Actually, Richie B has something like that now. I saw something like that he put on there yesterday or something.
Dude, come on. Don't join that. That's the wrong cult to be a part of, brother.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about that guy now. No.
Yeah.
So, all right. I do got to go, but I want everybody to know that this is your Pac-Man Paranormal podcast is on Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And there's the group. Do you have a website as well?
We don't have a website, but we do have a Facebook page. That's
Okay.
Pac-Man Paranormal as well. We run the investigations at Fort Duffield, which is a Civil War fort about an eighth of a mile that way from the house.
Nice.
And we've got a Facebook group for that called Hauntings of Fort Duffield. And, you can follow any of those pages and see any of the events we have coming up, or any podcast appearances, television show appearances, magazine appearances, anything that we do. You can find us through all of that.
Outstanding. Well, Ernie, I'm glad you came to my rescue. And it wasn't just coming to my rescue, but you actually gave me some great insight, bunch of notes here on stuff that you've said that I'll implement, and other people gave some good insights. And I'm going to have this podcast every week, and hopefully as the spirits come, I will implement the advice. I do like what you said about talk to them anyways. I'm going to have to put some real serious thought into that, and let's see how that goes.
All right. Yeah, so, I think that's the way to help them is to talk to them and block out Candle Face. And yeah, Denise, I got to say it over here because she'll yell at me if I don't. We do have a page for the house. It's called the Real Ditto House in 1841 Facebook page. So you can find out everything that we've got going on here at the house too.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty blurry. And I thought it said something else than the Real Ditto House. So, okay. Well, Ernie, I appreciate it. And thanks everybody for your comments. This is a collaborative effort. This is all about us, not just me. I'm just one peg in the wheel. And I want to be able to help all these lost souls any way I can. And I think the process is working because we're working together.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right, everybody. Thank you. And I will see you next week.
Everybody take care.